Business development is about building the relationship. It's about relationship equity. It's about long-term growth.
If business development is not sales, what is the real difference? If it is, development requires that trust, and trust requires time, then why are we treating business development like a same-day delivery?
You don't build trust over time by pushing a sale, because at the end of the day, people only buy when they have a need, and people only buy with people they like and trust.
Everything has to be in alignment, from the company, the leadership, the execution.
If you are in an industry that has a long sales cycle, please remember that the sales cycle is not a mindset problem, it's a market reality. Hello, and welcome back to Growth at the Pace of Trust. I am your host, Kawtar El-Alawi, and today we're doing things a little bit differently. The first 3 episodes of this show, it was about the mic, myself, real talk, and being behind the scenes. But today I'm excited because it's our first video podcast, and we're going to be tackling one of the 5 pillars of this show, and it's going to be business development. There's a little twist, however. Instead of me interviewing people, I'm going to be interviewed by our lovely guest here, Karen. Thank you, Karen, for being here today with me and for accepting to interview me. All right. So if we're ready, let's go ahead and tackle this.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me be here to interview. It's truly an honor. So let's get to it. Question 1 is, you have worked in business development for a long time. What is the biggest misconception companies have about business development?
Thank you, Karen, for this question. Well, let me tell you this. The biggest misconception that companies have about business development is treating it like sales. Okay? Business development and sales do not operate on the same muscle. Business development is about building the relationship. It's about relationship equity. It's about long-term growth. It's about market access. Sales, however, it's about transactions. It's about a yes today. It's about fulfilling a need. So think about it. When, let's say, I want to buy something, but I don't necessarily want to pay full price. So I go to Facebook Marketplace, okay, and I buy a tool for my gardening, okay? I go meet that person. I hand them the cash, and then they give me the product. So that's what sales are. So unfortunately, the misconception of confusing sales, hiring for one, business development, and measuring it by the other is what leads to burnt out teams and to high turnover.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Very well said. Okay, now if business development is not sales, what is the real difference?
So let me tell you this. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about what has been said for question 1. Okay? Sales is about a yes today. Sales does not require a relationship. Business development is about creating an opportunity and nurturing a relationship so that the yes comes later when the timing aligns. In a nutshell, this is the difference between the two. However, a lot of times, because business development has become a trendy title, companies want instant ROI, but the industry they belong to cannot operate based on instant ROI. Think about companies that are selling services where clients sign a 2 or 3 year engagement. Okay? So I can't walk into a client and pitch for tomorrow. I'm walking in to nurture the relationship so that eventually when the time is right, okay, they consider me and they allow me to propose on that engagement.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so why do companies then mix business development and sales so often?
Well, here's the deal, Karen. Companies are here to make money, okay? And we all agree on that. Mm-hmm. However, it's really hard to say that you're asking for a relationship when you're measuring a transaction. And it's really hard to say that you're asking for trust, but you're only rewarding the revenue. And this is where everybody fails. Okay. So, and there is actually some kind of truth that is often overlooked. Okay. For companies, unless they operate in a very niche market, okay, the odds are they're not the only option. So, what's that mean? That means markets are crowded. There are other firms that do good work, have good reputation. They offer the same products and similar services than you, and they're also competing over the same clients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this is where the disconnect is, because in a crowded market, the outcome is not only dependent on business development, it's dependent on an entire ecosystem. And this is what companies fail at recognizing sometimes. So you got the 5 P's. Price, okay? If you're overpriced, even if the relationship is strong, you're not going to win that engagement.
Mm-hmm.
There is also place, okay? The way business is done in New Mexico, which is heavily relationship centered, is not the same way business is done in New York or even in Texas, right? Okay? Then you've got promotion. If your competitor is offering a competitive bundle or is offering a promotion, they're probably going to hear their pitch. You've got the people. People do business with people they trust and with people they like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then finally, you've got the product and the service. Okay? So, what does that mean? It means that if, for instance, a price is off, or if the delivery is weak, or if the team is misaligned, or if we overpromise and underdeliver,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or if the experience on paper does not match the reality, then the relationship is simply going to stall. And that's the reality of it. So, companies that say that business development failed and that's why we did not succeed, they're ignoring an entire ecosystem that is responsible for growth.
Absolutely. It sounds like there's an edge in the 5 Ps that really leaps everybody above that. So, if it is development requires that trust and trust requires time, then why are we treating business development like a same day delivery?
It's unfortunate because companies want to have instant revenue, but you can't really click a button and expect a relationship at your doorstep. Okay? I'm pretty sure you, Karen, in your line of work, you get approached a lot, right? And when people pressure you, or you feel that you're being pushed, you kind of like become resentful, right? So trust compounds over time. And that trust is only built when people feel seen, they feel valued, they feel respected in terms of their timeline. So you can't be sending a check-in message every other day to your prospect. And even the touch points has to be different. Maybe today is going to be like, well, it was nice meeting you yesterday. I'd love to talk more. But tomorrow, the touch point will be I'm sending you an industry insight, or I'm sending you something built on what I uncovered. Maybe, you tell me that you love horseback riding. And I read that there is a horseback riding, I don't know, competition somewhere. And I said, so the touch points, they don't have to be, you know, checking in, checking in, checking in. The touch points could be, I invite you to this golf tournament, or we are sponsor of this balloon fiesta tent and we'd love to have you over. It could be an invitation to a gala. Hey, we have a table here and I'd love to have you and your significant other. So those are the touch points. This is how you build trust over time. You don't build trust over time by pushing a sale, because at the end of the day, people only buy when they have a need, and people only buy with people they like and trust. And trust is compounded over time, and there's nothing that can change that.
It really is. It has to be that intentional listening and therefore intentional touching, right? In terms of, hey, what is it that you really need? Not everybody knows right in the moment, right? And so listening and being a real human and having that depth.
Absolutely. That's what we forget about, is that we're dealing with humans, okay? We forget about the human element. We forget about, I'm talking to you. I want to add value, but I also want to respect your time. If this
Right.
is not the right time, all I want from you is to keep me in mind for when the time is right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rushing something that is not meant to be transactional will eventually just stall out, and bad feelings, I think, will exist. Okay. So, what is the biggest mistake companies make when hiring business development professionals?
So I have a lot to say about this, Karen, but I'm gonna keep it kind of short and sweet. It's really sad when companies say that they hire for trust, but then they punished for not closing in 30 days. Okay?
Punitive.
Punitive. When it's, a punitive hiring, when you measure business development based on 30, 60, or 90-day metrics, then you're missing the big picture. Okay? The way success in business development is measured is, you know, I don't want to say it's chaotic, but there could be some improvement in there. Okay? So, I talked about the 5 Ps earlier. Let's say if a business developer proposed $1.2 million in potential engagements, okay? And then the company won $40,000, okay? So $40,000 out of 1.2 million, it's not even 10%, okay? It's easy to blame business development. It's easy to say we did not hit our metrics or the revenue because business development failed. But the truth is, like I mentioned, they need to reassess and look at the 5 Ps. Okay, it's an entire ecosystem. So I'm really hoping, and this is why I developed a course that's 2 tracks, a leadership track and business development track. I called it the Business Development Operating System. And the idea is to create alignment between leadership that's responsible for design and structure and the architecture, and then the execution, which is the business developers. Because when there's a disconnect, it's me and them or me and you guys,
Hmm.
then it's really hard to penetrate. And companies that have the clarity and understand this, companies that understand that business development takes time, companies that understand what needs to be measured, companies that understand what business development even mean and educate their leadership and everybody within the company regarding that role, those are the companies that thrive. Those are the companies that do not suffer. However, if the companies are wanting instant metric and they belong to an industry, that's long sales cycle, then they're gonna fail. Okay. There are many industries like healthcare or engineering, professional services or construction, and many others where business development is not a luxury. It's a must. And why is that? Is because for those industries, the deals are complex, the buying cycle is long, it is heavily dependent on trust, on timing, on being patient. You can't say that business development failed if you did not provide for it all the resources to be successful.
Hmm. So it sounds like one of the biggest mistakes is lack of clarity throughout the entire company within roles, not only roles, but execution of, and what really defines the success of that activity, right? To cultivate something that ultimately ends in a sale. But it's that time, right? What are those touch points?
Yes, absolutely. So let me just tell you this, okay? Business development and sales, they both matter. If business development is done well, then sales is the byproduct of the trust that's already earned.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely. And it should be pretty seamless in that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so companies operate to make money, and business development payroll must be justified, right? So, what do you say about that potential conflict?
So, yes, companies are here to make money. Okay? But payroll is part of the cost of doing business. And I think the disconnect is because largely business development is misunderstood. or they don't know what the heck a business developer does. Okay? You can treat business development functions the same way you treat marketing. Okay? So marketing spends money today because it needs to create visibility, it needs to enhance the credibility of the company, and maybe create top of funnel demand. There's no instant ROI. Nobody is talking because a lot of people understand what marketing is.
Mm.
But business development is the same, except instead of doing it via campaigns, it does it via relationships.
So it's
So
boots on the ground.
it's boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, it does take time for a business developer to get to the ideal revenue or metric, to get to the sale. Okay. And the sale does not only depend on the business developer, because at the end of the day, the business developer gets a company to the proposal delivery stage.
Mm-hmm.
We open opportunities. Okay. We, in a way, create demand. Okay. But we're not the ones who sell. A lot of business developers, they will bring the opportunity to the company. And then that subject matter expert within the company that actually discusses the technicality of the engagement and everything is the
Absolutely.
one that closes.
Yeah. That total alignment. It's what I continue to hear throughout you sharing today is that everything has to be in alignment from the company, the leadership, the execution of those goals. And that has to be in alliance with the customer, right? Because then if any one of those prongs falls, everything falls.
Exactly. Exactly. You're spot on, Karen. Okay. Leadership has to understand what business development is and know what to evaluate. What's a successful business development like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Am I going to base it only based on number of meetings and what closes? Well, if I'm going to be basing it on wins, how much control that does business development has over the 5 Ps?
Well, that's like, going back to the basics of sales, right? Is that activity and the end is in the sales cycle is always that final sale, but what are your numbers going in throughout, right? You always know how many it takes, right? They say, okay, well, if you didn't get a yes, how many no's did you get? You're that much closer. But we also know that somebody saying no thank you is with the right listening is that delay for no, it's not a good time right now. There may be something else needed. It may be a promotion, right? It may be a decrease in the price. It may be an upscale in the quantity or when it's delivered. And if you're understanding that appropriately, then you can position yourself. But you need a team, right? Because you
Exactly.
also said, well, someone's an expert in product. Someone's also negotiating those prices, right? So if you're the person in front of the client saying, yes or no, Mr. Client, I will see what I can do for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a team behind you, alongside of you, in front of you that controls that. That's the basics of sales is you control what you can control. And there's so many things out of control and stuff like this.
Exactly, exactly. So, what I would say to every business developer out there is as long as you're doing the activity and as long as you're working with integrity and as long as you're respecting your time and your time by being smart about who you're going to approach, who you're going to target, what events you're going to go to, and you're being respectful of the time of the prospect you're dealing with, eventually it's going to pay off. It might not pay off this quarter, it might pay off next year, but it will pay off, because business development is about ROI that compounds. It's not just instant ROI. And business development is about the relationship equity. We want that client to stay with us for a long time. And if we are like, let's say, a full service company that have other products or services, then we want that client to think of us whenever a need comes for another service
Right.
or another. So at the end of the day, with business development, you have a, how do I say, a deeper, it's about depth. You have a
Mhm.
deeper relationship as opposed to a salesperson.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because that's my next question alongside of your philosophy is what guides your entire business development philosophy? I have a suspicion that that's related to what you just shared.
It is related to what I just shared. And I named this show Growth at the Pace of
Mhm.
Trust because I really feel that you cannot rush growth, you cannot pressure growth, you cannot control certain things. So you can only control what you can control.
Yep.
Okay. So you need, as soon as the word, okay, business development has the word development. Okay. As soon as you hear development, you should automatically think time and patience because child development takes time. Wealth development takes time unless you inherited money and assets. Okay. Professional development takes time. An entire ecosystem development takes time.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things you were talking about of a series coming up is leadership development. That takes time. And if not done over time and taken the time to execute, it's felt, right?
Exactly. For sure. For sure. So, yeah, you have to build trust over time. Obviously, you have to be in front of your prospects, but you have to be emotionally intelligent to not burn the bridge and become annoying. you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying too is you've mentioned a couple of times is having integrity and seeing the person and or the business in front of you, right? Recognizing that it's not just a sale, that it's deeper than that. You continue to mention depth.
Yeah.
And so if given that, the trust builds over time because what you can control is your word, right? Your follow through.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at a whole situation and not just that one transaction, then you tend to serve that individual or business in front of you. And
Absolutely.
that's where that trust builds. And they start to realize that it's not the sale that you're after, that it is the relationship. And in a world where cash is king, we all understand that we are trying to push the needle forward. And when it's blended in that beautiful way with trust, with good intention, everyone wins.
Absolutely. You nailed it, Karen. What a good co host I have.
Well, I think it's the message, right, that you share. You speak it so cleanly and it's a power of your belief.
Absolutely.
So what should business development professionals take away from this conversation?
All right. So I'm going to tell them, please take time to breathe. You have the permission to breathe. Okay. And do not compare your timeline to other people's timelines that are in other markets. Okay. As long as deep inside, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay. You're out there, you're building relationships, you have integrity, you have consistency, you're taking into account the buying windows, okay? You're doing your research, then you're fine because your value as a business developer is in the ecosystem that you're developing.
Hmm,
Okay?
I like that.
So that's
And
that.
all right. And what about the leaders listening?
Yes. So those overseeing business developers, there's a lot to say, but let's say first you need to make sure that the company understand what business development is. Okay. You need all the teams to be aligned, okay, and to understand the value of having business development. You need to know what to measure, okay?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's difficult to do, but you really need to emphasize the one team, one dream approach. Okay? It's not me, the business developer, go out there, get business, do it yourself. You know,
Great,
it's a whole team. If I win, we all win.
great.
Okay? And they also need to provide the clarity. And maybe, like, if their business development system has failed, okay, or they don't have, or they did not achieve the revenue that they were expecting, reach out to me. I did develop, an operating system that has the two tracks because at the end of the day, It's from a lived experience, not theory, not like I'm lecturing and saying some good words and that's it. I'm all about action and best practices and all of that. So if you are in an industry that has a long sales cycle, please remember that the sales cycle is not a mindset problem, it's a market reality. So don't blame your business developer for that. And one thing, if business development is going to take time, don't measure it like sales. Don't measure the wins. Measure the proposal delivered.
Mhm.
Okay? Because if you hired someone and he is out there or she is out there and they are proposing, that means they're doing right. Now, whether the engagement ends up being signed or not, there are other factors, and we discussed that.
I love that. So a couple of messages is permission to breathe, which I think it's huge and needed more now than it ever has been, which is it's a whole nother podcast conversation perhaps. And to the leaders is listening, I think, and clarity. But the bottom line of what I heard is what you've been saying this whole time is pay attention to the people, right? People first, one voice, multiple layers of execution.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, Karen.
Okay. So, where can people continue to have this conversation with you? Because obviously it can go on and on.
Well, to have this conversation with me, the people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with people and having, learning from each other.
Mhm.
Okay. I learn from other people's knowledge and expertise, and they probably could learn from me. To look me up on LinkedIn, my name is a little bit complicated, but I'm going to give the spelling Lalla space Kawtar space EL space ALAOUI. So that's how you can follow me on LinkedIn and reach out. And I read every DM and I respond to every DM. And then also on YouTube, they can look up Growth at the Pace of Trust. It's a newly created podcast channel. That's where I share insights regarding business development. Obviously, I'm going to start having guests come over. And the 5 pillars again, they're business development, growth mindset, real talk. What else? Career reinvention and leadership.
I love that.
All right. Well, I guess we are at the end of it, Karen, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing with us. I think your experience is phenomenal, but not only your experience, your passion to share. Because, like you said, it's through lived experience and collaborated future movement that we all continue to grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Karen, for accepting to take time out
Mhm.
of your day today and be with me. And thank you to everyone who has watched this episode in its entirety. I'm really happy about what we are, building here, and I can't wait to hear your insights, your comments, and if this conversation sparked any interest or any insight, please circulate it with your friends and with your colleagues, and you know, let's talk. Thank you. I'll see you at the next episode. Bye.